Hello and welcome to the Reference Point Podcast. I am your host, Paolo, and I am joined by my two very lovely co-hosts, Matthew and Anthony. The Book of Boba Fett.
Book of Boba Fett. So non-spoiler review, non-spoiler. Paolo, you want to maybe take it away?
Yeah, so overall the series is about Boba Fett and what he was doing post-Mandalorian Season 2. In this series, Boba Fett has essentially taken over as the crime lord of Tatooine, taking over Bib Fortuna, who had taken over Jabba the Hutt. And we basically see his struggle with keeping and retaining his power. Now, overall, as for the series, I enjoyed it. It had a lot of moments that were amazing, but also just had some moments that kind of takes you out of the story a bit, or has you sort of being like, really? Was that the best they could have come up with?
My honest opinion was that the show was the definition of mid. It wasn't too interesting. So much potential that they missed out on. I gotta say, guys, I was very disappointed with the show.
I am leaning a little bit more towards Anthony, maybe somewhere in the middle, but more towards Anthony, to be honest. I feel like this show was one gigantic missed opportunity. When it hit its highs, it hit some high highs.
They were soaring like a jetpack.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't even say that.
You wouldn't
I
even say
don't
that?
think the highs are as high as something in Mando Season 2.
It is very difficult to talk about.
Without spoilers.
Without spoiling anything. I do feel overall, however, that the show had some massive pacing issues. Editing choices that I don't particularly agree with.
I would say a lack of modern story, like the up-to-date story, like the modern-day Boba Fett story.
Well, it's not really spoiler, but part of the series is told through flashbacks, while the other part is told in
through
the present day.
post-Mando
And I'm
season
saying
2.
at the present day, it wasn't as interesting as it should have been or could have been.
Absolutely, that I agree with 100%. Very, very underdeveloped plot, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And without spoiling anything, the more you watch the show, the more you realize, there's been a lot of wasted time, and there is hardly any time left to cover anything particularly interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I want to talk about spoilers so bad.
Do we dive in or?
I want to dive in. I feel bad for the.
We're going to dive in. We're going to dive in head first into the Sarlacc's mouth. Come on.
Okay, guys. So here is your spoiler warning. Please, again, if you have not seen Book of Boba Fett and you do not want to be spoiled, please check out right now, because we're about to spoil it in 3, 2, 1. So we all thought that, our feelings are pretty lukewarm, right? Pun very much not intended there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
However, at the beginning of the show, I was in.
Mm-hmm.
I was 100% in.
You know me, I love all the flashback stuff.
Agreed.
Right. It's just the way they chose to kind of put it together, which allowed the show to completely fall apart, in my opinion.
It was a little jarring, in fact, I'd say.
Okay, here's the thing. Episode 1 starts, right? We're kind of left off with we're sucked right into where we were left off at the end of Mando Season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Boba's in that chair. He's got some funny banter with that guy there, the mayor's assistant.
Yeah,
right?
Major Domo.
Him. And I'm in.
Was that his name or was that his title?
I don't.
A bit of both, maybe.
Episode 1, I was really digging the way they chose to incorporate the flashback. And then they just chose to continue repeating that same exact trope.
The Parks and Rec jumping out of the Sarlacc.
Right, yeah, but I like the idea of the back to tank. I thought it was a great point in the story, and great plot device, because he needs to heal, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
He really does.
The man was soaking in Sarlacc juices. He was turning to a nice boba steak.
Absolutely. I felt like inserting those flashback scenes while he was in the back to tank was not necessarily an innovative way, but it felt organic.
Yeah.
It felt like it was properly woven into the story, okay? And I'm all for episode 1 being a majority of flashback, because, we got what we wanted to see for 30. Well, I'm not 30 years old, but what a lot of fans have been waiting to see for over 30 years, right?
Yeah.
The return of Boba Fett.
A sequel to episode 6.
Coming out of that Sarlacc pit. Great imagery. It was a bit maybe short-lived, but I felt like we got what we needed to see.
But it was just enough. Like, it wasn't too short.
And it was also portrayed in a way, like, Paolo, you were telling me about, like, it was very, it had a lot of horror elements, right?
Yeah, because the way they brought back Fett was they did it in a very zombie-like fashion. Like,
100%.
You had one gauntlet shoot out of the sand, a second, then he just pulls himself out. His armor is destroyed.
Yep.
He looks undead. And, like, using that imagery, it's like, you know, Boba Fett is back from the dead. And I really dug that. I was thinking to myself when the episode was first playing, I was like, oh, crap, this is nuts, because he's zombie Boba Fett, but he's alive.
So, you know, other than episode 1 being a little bit maybe short-lived, very short episode, very, very short
I felt
for a season premiere.
And I felt like the modern story in episode 1 wasn't exactly like
which I'm
insane.
Cool with. That I'm fine with.
It was like a nice slow start almost.
Exactly. So my expectations from that point on were, I would say, higher.
I definitely was looking forward to it. And
100%.
Like,
I was intrigued.
I would say I had high expectations.
And I knew that the present day storyline hadn't really kicked in yet. So we weren't really seeing the full potential of what the story could be. We're getting a lot of backstory from Boba.
They had gotten a good idea, and you just feel like they're going to take it in a good direction, you know?
The ball started rolling.
Right.
Exactly.
So move on to episode 2, which I feel, and you guys agree with me that I know for sure, easily I feel like a majority of people are.
Because, you know, after every episode, we just talk on the phone for like 3 hours.
A little bit more or less, yeah. That episode was incredible. Episode 2 is fantastic.
I loved it.
Honestly, way more flashback than I was expecting. Honestly, I wasn't even expecting any more flashbacks from that point on, right? Well, at the end of episode 1, what happens with the Raiders? Where is he left off with them?
I think he just started.
I think he just gets picked up by them.
Just okay. So actually,
he was the slave, right?
He was. Yeah.
With some were
yes. Okay, so sorry, my mistake. I was expecting at the time more flashback. Was I expecting necessarily an entire episode devoted to that? No. But what I got from that episode was fantastic. Let's talk about the Tusken Raiders for a second, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Talk about taking characters that have always been portrayed in a generic, negative, antagonistic, and like Anthony told me at one point, savage-like.
Yeah. Nature.
Sure, yeah. That's how they're always portrayed.
They're essentially always kind of creatures. Like, you always had like...
They're not characters.
Yeah. You had like your offshoots of like specific characters, but as a whole, they were just set dressing for...
Yeah. A bigger universe. Almost.
Yeah. Set dressing to show why Tatooine is such a horrible place. That's basically...
There's just one other reason.
Right. That's why I loved in Mando season 1 or 2, I don't remember. It had given them a
Calican episode.
Season 1. Yeah. They had started to give him a bit of development with the sign language and everything. I always love that. It's like, okay, we're starting to see a bit of this. Yeah,
that was cool. I love that.
Right. Yeah. So what this show does is basically give them an incredible amount of depth, make you genuinely care about the Tusken Raiders in a way, because they're also linked to the title character. I love their interaction. I thought it was wonderful. And the general impression that we all were getting of the show at that point in time was, oh, okay, this show is going to be a commentary about indigenous rights.
Yes.
How it was their land first and then it was taken away. They make a comment about that too, I believe, in one of the episodes, right?
Even their culture itself.
The culture is so well represented.
It's taken from like a variety of different tribes across the U.S., Canada, I think even South America. Like, it was just a very nice change because it was something that was real. Like, we had like the powwow, we had the like the visions, you know, just their lives, like their lifestyle, everything was just nice because it was real.
Absolutely.
And it gave the audience something to learn, like,
for sure.
And
I learned more about the Tuskens in like 5 minutes than I had in the entire other 9
Star Wars
live action movies. Yeah.
And on top of this, it's it makes you a lot more curious for what they're representing. Like, we always kind of got one sort of representation of Native Americans, you know, because of the old Wild West movies. It was a trope, but now we got something real, and I really appreciate that. I'm not Native American, but I can at least see that, and I like that another culture is getting represented really nicely.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's the impression that we got. Okay, we're getting this show is going to be a social commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but for Star Wars now, and I love the whole situation with the train, and seeing Boba's relationship with the Tuscans really start getting his motivation rolling. We understand. Okay, we could put 1 and 2 together. Like, okay, this is why he wants to take over. I'm assuming it's because he wants to help the Tuscans. He doesn't want these people to get slaughtered anymore.
Yeah.
He doesn't want them to be taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I thought that was wonderful. Episode 2 leaves us. Want to talk about the ending of episode 2, maybe with the huts. Talk about the big elephant in the room, not Paolo, but
we talk about the huts, but what is there to say besides the fact that it feels like a missed opportunity? They show up. Oh, we send the Chrysanthemum to kill Boba, and then
but
he fails,
but we don't know that. But
and
listen,
we're like, sorry, boys.
But here's the thing: we don't know that yet because episode 2. Talk about an incredible episode. You bring in the huts.
Oh yes, that was episode 3. My bad.
No problem. But like they looking better than ever, looking clearly better than episode 4.
Great CG,
edition.
very
incredible,
very impressive.
Black Chrysanthemum looking
nuts.
Like I didn't know anything about that character, but you want to talk maybe a little bit about Black Chrysanthemum?
So for those who don't know, Black Chrysanthemum is actually a character that came from the Marvel comics of the reboot in the Darth Vader
number 1, I believe 2015
by Kieran Gillen, right?
Exactly.
It's the only one I actually own, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
He appeared, alongside Dr. Aphra, which I
own that one too. Is that
I
number
really
3?
want. I think it's the same issue.
No, Dr. Aphra.
No, Aphra's issue 3.
3, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So I own that one and that one. The only two.
The first arc is a great arc.
All I just want to say is I'm so excited to see Dr. Aphra in live action. Anyway,
one day.
One day. We're basically kind of left with a really, really compelling promise, in a sense. Okay, this is what the show's gonna be. We introduced the 2 main antagonists of the show, the Hutts, right, along with their muscle for hire, Black Chrysanthemum.
Yeah,
and the Pikes. The Pikes were.
And the Pikes are there as well.
But they were more like, wasn't it more for the flashbacks to them, from what I remember?
Right.
Yeah.
If anything, the Pikes could have served their purpose of just simply being a means of getting Boba to reposition and re-question his place in the world and his role on Tatooine.
In the underworld, even. Because,
in the underworld.
The Pikes are a really big player with like Black Sun and
100%, yeah. So
Crimson Dawn.
From at that point in the show, that's what they're setting up. Then we get to episode 3, and it's like
speeder bikes, slowest I've ever seen.
But the Hutts are like, they're like, okay, ciao, bye.
No, they're like, "Hey, Chief, I'm gonna head out. You're okay, I guess."
The Hutts are literally there to, well, spoiler. I was gonna say spoiler alert. This has been spoiler heavy for a while now, but to literally give Boba a Rancor, and for Danny Trejo to have a really fun cameo just because of Robert Rodriguez, right?
Yeah.
So that's it, and they're gone. And the whole time I'm like, no, they're behind everything. They have to be coming back.
They just actually didn't even come back.
Right, but episode 3 is the one where it's like, okay, a majority of it now won't be flashbacks.
Yeah.
Let's actually finally start diving deep into the present day story. Cool.
And it's
the weakest.
interesting.
It is painfully uninteresting, like Anthony said. It is the weakest material in the season, easily.
I didn't mind it because I liked that it was slower. It was like, it's uninteresting. It's just, to me, the way I interpret it.
I love slow things.
No,
I love Blade Runner 2049, the slowest movie I've ever seen.
Okay, look, how this Boba Fett is now at this point where he just wants to sit back, live in comfort. Hence why he's becoming a crime boss. He wants to, retire. He just wants to take it easy.
Sure. Okay.
And maybe he's not cut out for this.
Oh boy, we'll get there.
It's the Book of Boba Fett, and we're gonna get into this later, but there's not much.
His name's on the poster, guys. Don't forget, Book of Boba Fett.
But there's not much Boba Fett.
That's him.
And arguably, you could see the best episodes are the ones where he's back to his original trilogy roots.
But
with one scene,
one scene, no dialogue.
Exactly.
Listen, episode 3 is the one where it's like, okay, we're gonna take a backseat with the flashbacks.
And that episode almost made me want to turn off the show. Like I couldn't handle it.
Okay, but here's the thing: you then in a very underwhelming manner, where there's no time for the moment to really resonate and marinate for the character and for the audience.
Mm-hmm.
They wipe out the Tuscans. That is episode 3, right? I'm not crazy.
It's 2 or 3
or 4.
Is it
but
3 or 4?
Either way, there's
We
not
can start
much.
moving on.
I mean, there's not much plot we're missing.
Yeah.
out on.
But they wipe them out.
Yeah.
The first
it's
4
like-
episodes seem like to one to me almost.
Right, and it's like, wait a minute. At this point, why didn't you just make the flashback segment one entire episode?
Or even start off the series like that.
Or
Yeah.
even start off this. Well, I think it would have been good to kind of start off the way they did, kind of to make you springboard off of Mando season 2. I think that's fine. Show the Bacta rejuvenation thing. Then the flashback kicks in, and from that point on,
Till like
it's
episode 2, it's just flashbacks.
It's just all flashbacks.
That's it.
It's bringing you up to date with why now. Okay, this is why Boba feels this way.
Mm-hmm.
This is his motivation. It's clear. And then you're going to now have much more time. It'll be much more paced much better. That, okay, this is now the present day story from this point on forward. Okay. And it could just have much more time to breathe. I was getting sick and tired of the flashbacks by episodes 3 and 4.
I guess it's the content of it for
But
me.
it
You
because-
have to understand why I was getting annoyed, though, Paolo. It's because I knew that, like many people knew, that this show was going to be 6 or 7 episodes, right? So 7
yeah,
episodes. And I'm like, we're at episode 4 and we're still in flashbacks. What the hell is going on?
and then it gets worse.
And
And then when you think the present day, Boba's present day story can't take a backseat anymore,
they prove you wrong.
they prove me.
But
They prove all
even
of it.
for the flashbacks, towards the end, when it started trying to like tie into Mando, he goes and he finds Fennec. I wasn't too intrigued by it either. Like, you know what I mean? When the Tuscan story ended and they ended it in an almost lame way.
Did we almost need the Fennec?
I
Shan?
didn't
something
want that. I
We
didn't
already
need it.
kind of knew, and we could have kind of inferred by just seeing the modded kids.
You
We
I
could have
guess-
just assumed.
I think that whole episode was just to tell us, like, okay, how did he get the slave one? How did he meet Fennec? Fennec?
but it's not a necessary story point in my opinion. Like,
Actually, let's actually just also address really the big issue with this is that the Tuscan Raiders were basically swept under the rug too.
100%.
Yeah.
I think this is a great segue, okay, to episode 5. Mine as well.
without a doubt,
Yeah.
the best episode in the Book of Boba Fett is the one that doesn't feature the title character for not even 1 second. Technically, if you count his credits at the end, Tamura Morrison, you see his name at the end, but that's about it.
Yeah, you shouldn't have gotten first billing on that episode, right?
It's probably a contractual. Words are hard.
Contractual.
Yes, words are hard.
Words are hard. What are words?
Yeah. Anyways, so what I loved about episode 5 was, look, it was a glimpse into what I thought was gonna be Mando season 3.
Exactly.
It's him alone. We see him trying to use the dark saber. We get nice references to Star Wars Rebels. I love that. I live for it. And at the end, he's back on Tatooine.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
listen. Okay, I don't actually have an issue with episode 5 at all,
It's a great episode.
even though it doesn't feature the title character. I think that's fine.
If
What
it
it
was one
does
episode.
is it takes what seems to be one of the strongest supporting characters of this series, and it devotes an entire episode to that character. And I don't think there's anything really wrong with having an entire episode devoted to the Mando.
Oh, for sure. It's just that, well, that plays more into episode 6, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
But episode 5, what I loved about it was just like a great development for Mando.
Yeah.
Gave us what I thought was going to be Mando season 3, Mando Solo, back to, I don't want to say roots because he was only like that for one episode, but it's him like Solo taking on the world by himself with the Darksaber, learning how to use it. I loved every second of him using the Darksaber.
I thought it was a really it felt valid as an element to the story because it allows us to understand how Mando gets to Tatooine.
Exactly.
Right? They introduce his new ship, which by the way is like one of the coolest ships I think.
I
in
always
Star
loved
Wars.
Naboo starfighters.
Same.
And now you bring him back. That's good fan service to me.
That is good
That's fan
fan
service done right.
You know, but wow, what a ship. Anyway,
Yeah. Great ship.
it brings Mando to Tatooine. We understand his purpose for being there. Everything is fine. Bryce Dallas Howard, might I add, directed the hell out of that episode.
Great
Killed
job.
it.
I was very impressed.
Incredible.
That's Ron Howard's daughter.
Yes.
Shout out Ron Howard.
Director of Solo, a Star Wars.
In theaters May 25th.
That's an inside joke.
You just got that burned in your brain, do you?
Yeah,
Yeah. I watched too many
Anthony's been-
promos, guys.
he's been saying that for years. But, you know, the episode is incredible. Like, what more can I say? To me, episode 6 of
Yeah.
the show is what kind of reinforces everyone's major critique that okay, it just became Mando season 3, because while episode 5 was season 2.5, episode 6 confirmed with me that no, this is Mando season 3, not even 2.5.
He sees Grogu again. He sees CGI Luke Skywalker, which looks 20 times better than he did in Mando season 2. Thank God.
Absolutely. Listen,
A bit of a
hats off
robot
to
voice.
the VFX artists. Seriously, I believe they hired that guy who did the deep fake on
guy.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Whatever they did, wow. And then episode 7 happens. And
Boba Fett rides a fucking Rancor.
he does ride a Rancor. And
it was
that
the
is easily,
coolest
for me,
thing.
the best part of that episode. The Rancor looked incredible. I thought, again, the visual effects
Were
team
amazing.
really did a bang-up job.
When they did the Rancor in the city, they pulled from old, like, sort of monster movies. Like, that was cool. Because it's like an old-style monster.
I just don't feel like the way all the plot lines come together particularly feels satisfying. For one, the American Graffiti biker gang.
Guys, I'm sorry, they're a useless crew.
What are they doing in the show? And I feel horrible for the actors, I really do, but I couldn't care less about a single
But
one of them.
they felt so out of place too.
They really
They're not
did.
out of place. They are like, they're prequel references because this is straight
Oh,
out
give
of
me a
George Lucas.
break.
No, it is. It's
They're prequel references.
So
it's
you
pure
mean to
George
tell me?
Lucas.
You mean to tell me that Boba Fett is putting a team together, right?
Putting together a crew.
A crew of the best bounty hunters available.
And she has the tiniest gun.
But you mean to tell me, like, really, you couldn't actually make this show about Boba recruiting, and if you really want fan service, recruiting characters like IG-88, Bosk,
IG-88 doesn't care.
fine. But characters like that, you really need
They
to
rebuilt Taika Waititi from Mando.
Yeah, yeah. It just didn't come together in a way that satisfied me.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, more of that screen time is devoted to Grogu and Mando's reunion, which I thought was very sweet.
It's very
so
cute.
He just leaps into
100%. But let's kind of like deconstruct Grogu's place in that third act action sequence.
He's a Deus Ex Machina.
No, not just that.
He
What's the
basically
mechanic
is.
lady's name again? I'm so sorry.
Guys, Luke Skywalker FedExed Baby Yoda to Mando.
You did.
Express R2. Why did Luke not go with
He
it?
did.
I get that they want to save budget on CG, but it's almost insulting, I found.
Listen.
He gets sent alone.
What's
do
the
like,
no
like
that
the Seinfeld way, where they just show his hand or the back of his hand.
Exactly.
There's
Like George
something
Steinbrenner.
way more yeah, that would have been funny. There's something way more stupid going on in that episode. What's the mechanic lady's name?
Pelly. Amy Sedaris.
Pelly. How can you possibly bring an infant into a war zone not realizing it's a war zone? Are you deaf?
She didn't know.
How can you not possibly know?
It's a bit of a stretch, guys. Like,
It's a stretch. It's horrible. Also, those Scorpex droids, those really big,
Yeah.
and those were from what originally?
the concept art for Attack
Attack
of
of
the Clones.
Attack of the
Clones.
Clones. That's right. All of a sudden, they start moving far quicker than they were before. The second we need a chase scene with
Finally, the chases are fast.
yeah. Okay, I will say this: the chase scene with Mando, Grogu, and what's her name?
Pelly.
is faster. It is faster in pace than the bike chase in episode 3.
And these are pimped out bikes. They're supposed to be the best of the best.
Pimped out bikes, and the Scorpex droids were considerably slower just 5 minutes earlier. So it's a big suspension of disbelief. You mean to tell me you can't hear all these explosions, these blaster rifle shots?
Basically, guys, like
You're going into a war zone with a child.
guys,
What
if
are you doing?
If you hear fireworks, like come on, everyone
I
hears
mean,
fireworks.
come on.
To be fair, one isn't Tatooine like littered with gunfire.
Come on.
I don't know.
I don't know about that. But
But
also
point is,
that
you hear
reunion,
that gunfire. Why are you still bringing the kid regardless?
that reunion.
No, he was hidden under a blanket. He was fine.
Oh,
The
the bulletproof, I
reunion,
forgot.
even the reunion, while it did touch my heart, it was sweet just because I love those two characters and we've
Yeah.
been with them for so long.
2 seasons. So
I
long.
just genuinely felt like that moment could have had way more time to breathe in his own show.
yeah.
That I do
Not
agree with.
shoehorned into a third act. But Grogu, like you said, is literally there just to put that Rancor to sleep.
And we saw Boba Fett put in the effort to at least build that bond a bit.
Did we? Did we really see
he
it?
was petting her.
Yeah.
We saw it one episode.
Listen, the Rancor didn't even technically need to go on a rampage. It just looked really cool, and
it was a cool idea,
It was
so
a cool
it did.
idea. That's maybe a good wrap up for our spoiler segment. We hope that this was fun. This was our first time doing this.
Thank you for tuning in. What can I say?
We had a blast. Please stay tuned. We got more content coming up soon.